What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Queen's Coaches Corner here on this Tuesday night in Charlotte, North Carolina, coming to you live from the JJ's Redhots rooftop here on East Boulevard. Glad to be back, as it's been a while since we've been back on the airwaves, but even more importantly, it's nice to be back outside. An absolutely gorgeous night here in Charlotte. We've had fantastic weather as of late, and of course it continues on here, and why not? As we got a special edition of the Coach's Corner coming up. A couple of new folks that haven't been on before. We'll get you caught up on everything that's been going on. Tons of great seasons throughout the spring. Men's and women's lacrosse rocking and rolling. Their postseason coming up just in about 2 or 3 weeks. Meanwhile, baseball, softball still cruising along. Softball with a great shot to get into that postseason tournament and, of course, make a little noise as we head on out through the rest of this semester. And first up, joining us here tonight is our interim head softball coach, and Keela Goins. And Keela, first off, thank you so much for joining us. I know you just got done with practice, so carving some time out, come and have a conversation with us.
No problem. I'm happy to be here.
Let me ask you this. Looking at this season, it's been a fun one, and I know you guys are sitting right now, have 18 wins, in prime position in terms of putting yourself into that postseason tournament, being the first team in the Division I era in terms of softball to make a conference tournament. What has it been like this season? What's impressed you most about the girls and the way they performed?
Just the way that they show up every day, ready to go. We throw a ton of things at them every day to put a whole lot of pressure on them so that the game comes to them a little bit easier. And the way that they've just responded and just took everything that we've given to them and just ran with it. I think that's what's impressed me the most with this group of girls so far.
Well, I know you guys have played a very tough schedule, both non-conference and, of course, the ASUN Conference. No joke in terms of mid-major conferences. But, over these last couple of weeks, you've really put together some good wins, some good quality wins, both non-conference and in the conference. A couple of good conference series wins. What has it been like over these last couple of weeks? What have you seen click within these young ladies?
I think we're just starting to put it together a little bit more. Autumn has been outstanding in the circle, and Abby right along with her. I think they have put it together pretty much most of the season. And offensively, we are starting to join them here of late. And then I think we're just putting it together as a team. So I think that's what helped. That's what's helped us as of late in the series wins that we've had so far.
And I feel like, especially in the game like softball, you can't understate how big it is to have a pitcher that's as solid as Autumn has been in the circle so far this year. Not just that, but a freshman coming in against some lethal offenses, both non-conference and conference. And she's sitting right now with an ERA well under 3, has 13 wins, sits second in strikeouts in the conference. What is it about her game and her stuff that just translates so well to this level?
I think when Autumn first got here in the fall, I think that she had a lot to learn and a lot to grow, a lot of areas that she needed to grow in. Sure. And she took everything that her and Coach V work on every day in the bullpen, and she has just polished herself to where now she is just cruising through conference, non-conference series. And, I don't know what we would do without Autumn at this point.
Fair enough. Well, you mentioned Abby's been pitching very, very well. Yes. She sits just over 3 in an ERA, but a ton of strikeouts for her as well. This is a team that returns a lot from last year, and I feel like, and I've talked to Coach Schramm about this in the past, and of course, honestly, I've talked to you as well. This is a team that's seen a lot of adversity, that's gone through a lot. A lot of these players went through the whole COVID stuff, and then again into last year when they finally got a full season again, and now the very next year they make the jump to Division I. So, what impresses you about this bunch and the way that they've handled adversity so far?
The same way that we throw things at them in practice, the same way that things are thrown at them in life. The way that they respond is just, I commend them every day. They haven't skipped a beat. Even with everything that's happened of late, they continue to stick to the plan, and they're worried. We're worried about us and not what other teams have and what they can do. We're worried about what we need to do and what we know that we're good at. So they just continue to stick to that, and I think that's what is making us so successful.
And not to take anything away from any of the other teams in this athletic program, because there's a lot of togetherness, but that being said, this group of young ladies really seems to have formed a big-time sisterhood, and you can tell how close they are both on and off the field. How big is that in this sport in terms of the way this game is played?
Yes. There's a lot of competition, even within
Sure.
the team.
Yeah.
And I think I commend those group of girls more than anybody because they support each other, whether they're playing or whether they're not. And they are rooting for that person to play their best and perform their best, even though they are competing with each other as well. So I think that speaks volume to them.
Well, looking ahead at these last couple of weeks, I know you have a midweek series tomorrow with Furman, a good team out of the Big South, and then of course you're right back here at home. It's seemingly it's been a while since you've been at home, especially with the last time, of course, with the rain and all the craziness that happened there, pushing those games back, having to get those in and all that kind of stuff. But what are you guys looking forward to about this weekend? You got a big matchup with Jacksonville. On paper, a couple of games that you probably can win, but it's one of those things that there's no team in this conference you can take for granted.
Right. We're looking forward to this weekend, but we know that on any given day anybody can beat anybody, especially in this conference. So we're going to show up and take it pitch by pitch, game by game, and not make it bigger than what it is, and not let games get away from us because we were looking ahead too far.
Sure. And I know, and not to toot your horn, but you were an outstanding hitter in your own right in your collegiate days, which were not that long ago. And now here you are as the interim head coach of this softball program. But, the lineup as well, I feel like has really come alive. And more importantly, timely hitting. That's been a big thing as of late. Maybe not putting 15, 16, 17 runs on the board, but when you have somebody like Autumn Courtney in the circle, she gets enough run support. She's like, okay, I'm going to dial and do my thing. But, what is it about the hitters and the way that they've been able to come up with those timely hits that have really jumped off the page to you?
We've worked really hard on situational hitting in practice. I think we know our identity as an offense is not to put up 10 runs a game. So we know that when we do have those opportunities, we have to capitalize on them. So we've worked really hard on situational hitting and putting balls in play to make things happen. We're not really looking for the long ball.
Yeah.
I don't think that's our identity, but they've done really well with just working on situational hitting and when we have those opportunities to capitalize on them.
Well, as an old school softball, baseball fan, I got to admit, I enjoy the situational hitting and being able to do that because the home runs are great, but if you're constantly up there trying to hit it over the fence, you're probably going to strike out a whole lot. And, I realized that especially in the game of baseball, people have made a living out of that as of late. But I know with softball, especially with the way the ball travels, it's big to just be able to hit line drives, get base hits, move those runners into scoring position. And then, like you said, have the trust of those behind you to come up and do what they need to do. Well, looking at the rest of this season, I realize you guys take it one game at a time, but as a coach, I know you're kind of looking at it from 40,000 feet as well. Looking at the rest of this season, knowing what you guys have coming up, you have this home series, you got one more in that first weekend of May, and then somehow the conference tournament's right around the corner. I'm not really sure how we've gotten there this quickly, but that being said, what is it that you guys are really trying to go out there and prove day in and day out?
We're just trying to prove that we belong. I think there's been a lot of, just because we are new to Division I, people feel maybe that we aren't necessarily in the mix. So our point that we want to prove every day is that we belong. We belong in this conference. We belong in the conference tournament. So every game that we go out there, we're trying to prove that we deserve to be there and we belong.
Well, I would say you guys have continually proved that you do indeed belong, that's for sure. So, Coach, I appreciate you taking some time out and joining us. Of course, best of luck tomorrow on the road at Furman. Then, of course, we'll have you back here in Charlotte for that series against Jacksonville coming up this weekend. Doubleheader Saturday, one game on Sunday. But, Coach, always a pleasure talking to you, and thanks so much for carving some time out.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a break. When we get back, we'll keep rolling right along here on the Queen's Coaches Corner. Don't go anywhere. We're back here on the Queen's Coaches Corner right after this.
Once royalty carves out its place in history, it becomes an empire. And an empire needs room to grow. People call us an empire. We simply call ourselves Royals. Queen's has been committed to excellence in everything we do. Now, we've leveled up. We're faster. We're stronger. We're better than ever. And now, we're ready for a new challenge. Our legacy has expanded. ASUN is now our domain, whether it's away or at home. On the diamond, even when no one is watching. Working, training, coaching. In the moments that define our empire, Royals are Division One.
Every journey has a starting point. Each student has a moment when talent and passion meet opportunity. At the intersection of challenge and support, self-discovery fuels breakthroughs, and leaders emerge prepared for what's next. I grew up loving music. It possesses this very real, very unique power for connection and healing. And my journey as a music therapist took shape here.
I discovered the pool offered a more level playing field and the chance to push my limits. At Queens, there's so much opportunity, and our potential for greatness accelerates with every step of our collective journey.
I've always had a knack for chemistry, and that talent has magnified since I got here, rippling out in new directions. I'm not afraid to take risks. I believe challenges make us stronger, and innovation only comes when we're willing to lean into the unknown.
I'm still not sure what the future holds, but whatever it is, Queens has prepared me for it.
My professors push me in the classroom and believe in my abilities.
My coaches, professors, all of us, we're one team, one family.
Here, my voice is heard. I'm given the freedom to be myself and charter new opportunities for change.
Here, strength comes from within.
Practice makes perfect.
And curiosity knows no bounds.
I believe Queens graduates will create a better tomorrow. Where we go next? That's up to us.
Back here in the Queens Coaches Corner on this Tuesday night as we wait for some of the coaches to make their way over from practices. Of course, that is something they have to do, that's for sure. Let's take a look at the schedule coming up for this week. As we talked about it, softball will be home on Saturday and Sunday. We'll have the doubleheader on Saturday on ESPN+. Audio-only broadcast Sunday. Their first pitch there is at noon. 2 and 4 on Saturday on ESPN+. Meanwhile, for baseball, a Friday-Sunday bookend matchup for you as they host Kennesaw State coming up. And the Owls will come to town. Royals trying to see if they can't make a little noise in the baseball side of things. I know Coach Steely has his bunch rocking and rolling as well as of late, just trying to piece those wins together. You know, we've talked about it time and time again. None of these teams able to compete for the NCAA championships, but they are more than capable of winning a conference championship. I know we just talked to one team that's very much in the running for that right now in the softball program. Women's lacrosse, another one that's going to make some noise when it comes to the ASUN Conference Championships as well. They come up on May the 3rd through the 6th. They have a couple of games on the road this week. They play Stetson on Thursday. Then they'll be at Jacksonville for the matchup of the season so far in the ASUN Conference between the Queens University of Charlotte Royals and the Jacksonville Dolphins as well. So all sorts of competition happen against University of Jacksonville coming up this weekend for all of our sports programs. Meanwhile, men's lacrosse has one on the road as well as they continue to head on throughout their season. Their final game of the year coming up against Utah, That'll be next week on Saturday, Alumni Day, Senior Day, all that, and then some as well. Track will be on the road coming up this weekend at UVA, so they'll head up to Charlottesville for a little action. Men's lacrosse will be at Mercer, and of course we talked about softball, baseball will be here at home. Women's golf wrapping up their A-Sun Conference Championships today. We'll try to find the results on that one. I know they shot par yesterday, but so many things, so many be the first moments. We've talked about it time and time again throughout this year, how many be the first moments there have indeed been, and continue on and on. Almost seemingly every single game that comes up, something new happens for each one of these programs. And of course, it's a special time to be a Royal, that is for sure. Take a break here. When we get back, we'll keep it on here on the Queen's Coaches Corner, live from the JJ's Redhots rooftop here on East Boulevard. If you want to get down here and join us, make sure you do. Lots of good food, lots of good friends. Come on down and join us. We're back after this here on the Queen's Coaches Corner.
Life. It happens. And sometimes all you can focus on is the pain. At Ortho Carolina, we want to restore you to a life without the pain. A life where the activities you pursue are no longer hindered. A life where you can freely enjoy, love, and participate in the lives of the people closest to you. Ortho Carolina, you improved.
Once royalty carves out its place in history, it becomes an empire. And an empire needs room to grow. People call us an empire. We simply call ourselves Royals. Queens has been committed to excellence in everything we do. Now, we've leveled up. We're faster. We're stronger. We're better than ever. And now, we're ready for a new challenge. Our legacy has expanded. A-Sun is now our domain, whether it's away or at home. On the diamond, even when no one is watching. Working, training, coaching. In the moments that define our empire, Royals are Division 1.
Back on the Coach's Corner, here on this Tuesday night, live from the JJ's Redhots rooftop. We caught up with Kelly McQuilkin, our head coach for our women's lacrosse program, yesterday afternoon as they get ready for a long Florida road trip coming up this week. They're at Stetson on Thursday, at Jacksonville on Saturday. Tough turnaround. Let's listen to what she had to say yesterday afternoon when we sat down and talked with her. Coach's Corner, as always, I'm Mike Lennon alongside you here on this Tuesday evening as we welcome in. We turn our attention to women's lacrosse, who's having themselves a heck of a season. Final couple of games. I don't really know where the time went so far in the spring season, but head coach Kelly McQuilkin joins us, and I'm sure you're sitting here having that same thought, right, Coach?
Oh, my goodness. This season went by so quick.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, it's been a lot of fun to watch what you guys have done, especially, we talked about it a couple of months back in terms of what the excitement was going into this season. I know a bit of a slower start than I know that you guys maybe would have expected, especially the young ladies that are coming back. They've been a part of this program for a while. But that being said, you guys have really turned it around ever since that Gardner-Webb game. Something triggered. So I got to ask, what's been the difference that you've seen as a head coach here over these last couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's tough to start the season with losses, but I think we really just need to learn from them, honestly.
Sure.
We started with a tough schedule. We got to see how we react in tight pressure situations, got to see that, hey, we can play at the top Division I level. It's just a matter of making good decisions. And as much as we hate to lose, I think that it was a good thing for us, and we just learned a lot.
Well, and I know it had to be good in terms of, especially once that offense started clicking. I mean, you guys have been in double figures really all but one game since that point. But, we had talked about defense as well, but, having 8 straight games, if you will, more or less, besides the one on the road at Robert Morris at home, that, of course, had to be a big thing for you guys. You guys coming off that senior day win against Kennesaw State, but winning 7 of those 8 games. And now you've head into this back half, which, don't get me wrong, is a very tough stretch of games on the road to finish this season. But you guys kind of control your own destiny right now. 8-5 overall, 3-1. What is it that has stood out to you over this home stretch?
The fight in our girls, right now we're playing for the second seed. I think we've positioned ourselves very well as we head down to Florida. We have 2 really tough games on the road this week, another one at Coastal next week. So like I said a couple months ago, our girls are determined, they're feisty, and they just want it. So we're playing with a lot of heart right now and trying to figure out how to start fast. That's our goal this week.
I like that. And I know you're a very defensive-minded coach, obviously a great defensive player at Towson in your own right. But, looking at what that defense has done this year, you guys said top 10 in the nation in caused turnovers per game and caused turnovers, led by who else but Grace Guglielmo. We've talked about her plenty of times. But that being said, what has been big about this defensive performance that you think has led to a lot of success here?
They're just tough-nosed. I think coming back with a veteran defense, they've been there. They've had to play in hard games. And honestly, they just embrace the pressure. They love matchups and tight 1v1s that we need to just hold out. I mean, going up against Lindenwood, there was just a lot of emotion behind that game, being the rematch of the national championship. Absolutely. And just being able to go and hold our 1v1s and keep our top players to a limited number of goals has just been really successful for our defense.
I got to be honest, as a broadcaster, I had to hold my excitement in during that game. And don't get me wrong, there was a lot to be excited about for the Queens, but I had to be a little bit more neutral. But I was wanting that one for you guys as well. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And, 0-0. I know we're 3-1 in conference right now, but we have to go into every single game 0-0. And I'm sure we will see Lindenwood at some point again this season. Sure. And they're only getting better. Every single team is. So every game moving forward 0-0, we're playing for our own destiny right now.
Well, we've talked about it time and time again. In this conference, there really is no days off because, even a team that has been a bit stagnant over this season, like a Kennesaw State, came out and firing against you guys. And I feel like when you're in those top two seeds, you have that bit of a target on your back of, someone's coming out and saying, hey, we have a chance. Even if our season might be theoretically done, we have a chance to really hurt them on this game. So I know that was something that you guys kind of rebounded from in that game. But I'm talking about the Stetson matchup coming up on Thursday. They're a team that has struggled as of late, but that being said, a very capable team to pick top 4 in the conference coming into this year. What is it about that game that stands out to you coming up Thursday?
Stetson's a great team. I think they're very well coached. They're athletic, they're fast, they're gritty. We have our work cut out for us, but I think pushing our pace, getting our sea legs under us, off the plane, off the bus in Florida. Our girls are just excited to get off campus too and kind of switch things up. And what's better than sunny Florida as well?
Well, back to the defense side of things, I do have to credit Julika Blankenship, who, former head coach at Winthrop, of course, battled you in the Big South when you were at High Point. She made the comment a couple of games back of, she's like, this defense looks eerily similar to the nightmares I had about High Point over the last couple of years as a head coach. But what is it about the defense? I know you guys have really improved the ride as well, but the defense and the defensive third side of the field is just something to behold over these last couple of weeks. What is it? I know you mentioned the effort and the hustle from these young ladies, but at that being said, what's the mindset going into that defensive third?
I think there's just a lot of pride on that end too. Obviously group led by Grace, but also she has a great defensive unit behind her too. Yeah. They're just gelling really well, having that veteran experience behind them, but they love to go out and get the ball. I love that as a coach. Sure. I barely have to tell them to go out and attack and get the ball back. So honestly, that's where some of their joy comes from, is just going out and double team, going out and getting that back check. So they're a really self-motivated group, and they're just the anchor for our group right now, giving our still new offense as many opportunities as we need. Well,
and I know, you look at the defense that returns from last year. Obviously, Grace is the forefront of that. But you have the youngsters that come back, and Avery McMullen, Kaylee Geis, they have been phenomenal this year. I always make the comment, it seems like at least 2 or 3 times a game when Geis gets the ball on the defensive end and she just turns on the jets and she's gone. She's like, I'm going to go ahead and clear this ball, and just keeps on going. Obviously, Grace runs through a brick wall. But one that's really stuck out to me this year, and someone that I have seen develop over these last couple of years, Annie Hutter. I mean, she's been great. She's obviously had plenty of good defense to watch over these last couple of years, but she has earned that starting spot for a reason.
Yep, she has. From a leadership perspective, mentorship perspective, I mean, she's crushing it right now. We need her on the field, her experience, her just calling slides, her IQ strong, and she's just done a fabulous job.
And of course, the midfield play, always expected it to be sound, and of course it is, with Shannon Kingston and Shannon Donovan to lead that way going in through. But, you look at it, Amora O'Donohue, someone who dealt with a few injuries over her career. She's made a big impact this year. But I got to shout out Kayleen Favreau. I mean, first off, well done on finding her. But at the same time, I mean, very likely, at least in my humble opinion, should be the ASUN Freshman of the Year. I mean, she's been outstanding, but what is it that just kind of takes her game to a new level?
She's hungry, but she's also just very acceptable to feedback and criticism. I mean, we watch film at least once a week. We're texting about things that I see.
Gotcha.
I send her clips. I mean, she just wants to be at her best, and she's never settling. Even in the middle of the game against Kennesaw over the weekend, she's like, "Coach, what can I do better? Give me a focus." And sure enough, she goes out and she puts a couple of goals in the back of the net.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, to have that kind of hunger as a freshman, that is a big time thing. I know has to be a very helps you sleep a little bit easier at night as a head coach.
Yes,
yeah.
For sure.
Well, talking about these last couple of weeks, and I realize that Liberty game, and don't get me wrong, Liberty right now probably playing better than I'd say a vast majority of the teams in this country. I don't care Power 5 or not. One thing I did say about that game, of course, you fell behind early. You mentioned a little while ago getting started a little bit quicker and stuff like that. That being said, though, that fourth quarter, I feel like was a big one for you guys in that game. Nasty conditions. I swear it was like playing in a hurricane. But that being said, what stuck out to you in the way that they continue to fight and the grit that they had in that fourth quarter?
Yeah, I think that game against Liberty was really good for us. I mean, props to Liberty. They're playing at just a really high level right now. If you look at their schedule, they've scheduled 5-6 top-ranked teams.
Yeah.
So they're prepared coming into the conference. But it was great for us to see the pace of play, the power, just the sheer level of anticipation that we need to get to in a matter of just a couple of weeks if we want to be competing for that conference championship. So it was good. I mean, seeing the fight in our girls, they never give up. And I think leaving that game too, like, we tweak a couple things here and there.
Sure.
We get this a little bit faster. We're not far off either. So that's been motivating to the girls.
Well, let me ask you this. Of course, I realize as a head coach, you got to take it one game at a time. But I realize also in the back of your mind somewhere, you're looking at it from 40,000 feet, of course, of, what's the rest of this season look like? What's the future look like? First off, you have to be happy with what you've seen thus far in the first season's Division I program. But the other thing is looking at these last 3 games, 3 really tough ones on the road. Then you head on you're going to Jacksonville this weekend, and then you're back at Jacksonville for the conference tournament. What is it that you feel like you need to do to stay and hold on to one of those top 2 or 3 seeds?
Just staying in the moment. I think it's pretty easy to overlook the next few games and look forward to just the tournament. We need to make the tournament first.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, absolutely.
But just being in the moment, I mean, it's such an opportunity to be the first Division I program here at Queens. We have an awesome group of seniors that we got to celebrate, but even more so an awesome team. It's one of the closest groups I've ever had the ability to coach. So just staying in the moment, enjoying one another, making sure we're getting better every single day.
Sure.
And not looking forward. Stetson's a great team, and those are the ones that are on my mind right now.
I'll say in the ASUN Conference, you cannot overlook anybody. That is for sure. So, Coach, I appreciate you carving out some time, having a conversation with us. Of course, best of luck on these final 3 games. We're rooting for you guys on the road this weekend at Stetson, at Jacksonville, and then, of course, at Coastal Carolina coming up the following week, and then more importantly, on into the ASUN Conference tournament. So, best of luck for the rest of the year.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right. We will take a break. We're back here with more Queens Coaches Corner right after this.
Life. It happens. And sometimes all you can focus on is the pain. At Ortho Carolina, we want to restore you to a life without the pain. A life where the activities you pursue are no longer hindered. A life where you can freely enjoy, love, and participate in the lives of the people closest to you. Ortho Carolina, you improved.
Back here on JJ's Redhots rooftop on this Tuesday night. Glad to have you along with us, Mike Lennon, here on the Queens Coaches Corner. Absolutely beautiful night here for this in Charlotte, North Carolina. Temperatures up in the 70s. It's sunshine, a little bit of a breeze, but I'll be honest with you, I'll take that breeze because this time of year it gets a little bit sticky, that's for sure. So as we move right along, let's head out to the track and let's talk with Jake Krolik here, who joins me now. And first off, Coach, appreciate you hopping back on with us.
Of course, always a pleasure to be here, Mike.
Well, we were just talking before we came back on air. A lot going on this weekend, but you guys have a pretty full schedule coming up from now till about the middle of May when the ASUN Conference Championships wrap up. A schedule that seemingly hasn't stopped since back in the fall with cross country. It's been every single weekend. But that being said, looking at this weekend, we were just talking about it, splitting up the duties between Lenore-Rhyne and Charlottesville at UVA. I was mentioning that a little while ago before you came on. But, what's this weekend look like? More importantly, how's this outdoor season finally heading out for you?
So this is really the time of the season that we really gear up for, that with our whole transition, the whole idea has been to have a great outdoor season. And with us really ending at the conference meet where we're used to going into D2 Nationals, everything like that.
Sure.
This is it's a little bit different, trying to get excited about the end of April pretty much. So
Sure.
We've really been keying up for the UNCC invite next weekend. And for a lot of our athletes, this is a great tune-up going into it. Just kind of come off a rare rest week for our entire group this past week, and I know I enjoyed it. I know that we're looking forward to getting out there. And Coach Pesic, his multi-girls that are doing an outstanding job, are going to run a couple events and get tuned up for some big final events at UNCC. I'm going to take a couple of our top distance athletes out to Charlottesville and go run at UVA with a couple of them. So Mark Schittenhelm's going to do the same thing at try and get a great 400 hurdles in there at UVA. He's one of our guys with a chance to win a conference title out of course. I always say it's amazing that our hurdlers give us a good chance when we don't have a track. So it's
that's saying something right there.
Kudos to our coaches. I don't do those, but I guess I got a steeplechase that's all right. We don't have any steeple barriers. So
fair enough.
So but no, they're doing a great job. Melanie Welsing's out there crushing it right now.
Absolutely, she is. She hasn't stopped. Let's be honest.
She hasn't stopped, and honestly, she's just gone to another level. I mean, she was a good multi indoors. I mean, she had an okay high jump. Hurdles were good.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're talking a girl that went out there, and she's currently ranked 12th in all of Division I in the heptathlon. She is ranked in the top 30 in the high jump, ranked in the top 30 in all of Division I in the 100 hurdles. So the way that things worked, if we had NCAA postseason competition, she would most likely be heading to the first round of NCAAs in those two individual events, and an outside shot to go directly to the NCAA final round in the multi right now. So she is having an outstanding season. Her weekend in San Angelo a few weeks ago was phenomenal. So I know I'm just excited to get to watch her a couple more times.
I feel like maybe she just likes being outside. That seems to be what it is. But she truly is something to behold. That's for sure. And you mentioned it. You guys have some really good caliber folks on this team, and we had talked about it even back in the cross country season. Kind of what this season was going to look like. Some new folks, some veterans. Kind of how things were going to shape out. I know there is something to be said of not competing for those NCAAs, but there's still the conference championships and still a chance to bring home hardware. And I know you guys are competing hard every day.
Yeah, one of the cool things that I just noticed, I hadn't really paid much attention to rankings this past year, unlike usual, but we noticed that we were ranked 11th out of 48 teams on the women's side in the Southeast region. So we were the third non-Power 5 school to be ranked.
Fantastic.
Just behind Charlotte. And one spot behind Liberty. So we were the second-ranked ASUN school in the Southeast region. So we're getting a little bit of a glimpse for what's possible.
Sure. Yeah.
We need to do a little bit of work to make that success sustainable and to make sure that those results show up throughout the entire season. So we're just starting to get a little bit of a glimpse of what is possible here. We've got a lot of work to do as a coaching staff, but it definitely tells us that it is possible to have some success at this level. And if this is where we're at in year one, I can't imagine where we're going to be in another 4.
Well, let me ask you this. You talked about it and mentioned a little while ago, the event next weekend at Charlotte. How big of an event is that? I mean, I realize there's a ton of talent that'll be there, but how big is that in terms of tuning you guys up for conference coming up in just a matter of weeks? Somehow, some way, it's almost right around the corner.
It's huge because UNC Charlotte's an outstanding team. They've got some great depth across every single event. So we got some heavy hitters that'll contend in some events. They have depth, though, that will make, regardless who shows up, I think there's going to be 4 ACC schools there. So these are going to be fast races. They're going to be competitive events. Not only are we going to have the chance to run fast, but we're going to have to run tactically strong, just like we're going to have to do at the ASUN Championships in 2 weeks. So this gives us a chance to get excited and run some flashy fast times, get some solid marks in the field events. But even more importantly, we're going to get a chance to go out there and compete. And that's kind of exactly what we're looking for. It was great last year when we came out here. It was a perfect tune-up heading out to NCAAs. And last year, this is exactly what we need heading into the ASUN meet.
Well, I know it's going to be a hot weekend in Jacksonville in the middle of May. It's let's be honest, Jacksonville in the middle of the May. Probably going to deal with some humidity, that's for sure. But just kind of looking ahead, you mentioned it. You head out to Charlotte coming up next week. Then you mentioned the at Angelo State a couple of weeks back. Let's talk about that and kind of what you saw from this team. And you mentioned Melanie, but what else did you see from your team in that one and then heading into these next couple of competitions?
One person to really call out here is Karis Lee.
Okay.
Last year, I don't know if she went over 3,800 points or so. she almost performed almost 1,000 points better.
Wow.
Than her and Melanie both 1,000 points better than they did a year ago.
That's incredible.
So Karis barely made it over 5 meters in the long jump. She went out there and won after doing the multi, she went out there the third day and won the individual long jump competition, jumping almost 3 feet further than she did all of the 21-22 season. So someone who, rose to the challenge. And I asked her to come back and be a little bit more fit when she came back this year. And she really took that to heart. And she's come back and made the most of her senior year. When she was here last year, she wasn't talking about using her COVID eligibility.
Sure.
And last week she talked to me about, hey, maybe grad school is a possibility to stay here in the States and do some stuff like that. So it's always great to see some of our athletes that maybe don't see grad school as a possibility, or to see a future beyond their 4 years here as a possibility in this sport. To see someone really make such a change and such a commitment to bettering themselves that all of a sudden they see opportunity presenting itself. So Karis Lee's been a great example of just working hard and making the best of a situation. A lot of what goes on with our team just rising to the challenge this year. It's a great example of what this kind of year's been like for us.
And kudos to you guys as a coaching staff as well. You guys, of course, have put in a lot of work and of course have therefore inspired something in her to be able to make that jump to do what she's done. But, that takes a lot of individual effort, a lot of hard work. And of course, nice to watch that pay off as well as she continues to perform day in and day out. And then on the men's side, what have been some standouts for you? What have been some big moments so far this season, transitioning from the indoor to the outdoor?
So the great thing is we had the 400 hurdles. So like I mentioned earlier, Mark Schittenhelm's going to have a chance to win an ASUN title there. He's come out guns a-blazing, and we just got back from track workout just now. We went up to UNC Charlotte, got a couple of reps for him there. He's looking strong. He's excited. He's working hard. So really been great to add that event just because we get to see that from him. Just like in the discus, we got to see Jakob Nutzel go out there and throw one of the furthest discus throws I've ever seen by a freshman. So the downside, he had a little training mishap a few weeks ago.
Gotcha.
But we're going to get a red shirt out of him, and that's going to carry over into his fifth year, which will be our first year competing at NCAA. So we're silver lining. That's why we're looking at that. But we got a little glimpse of the greatness that he's going to bring to our program. So,
and that brings up an interesting point. Looking at this season, we've talked about it kind of building towards the future. You have a lot of folks that will graduate and move on, and maybe some stay for a fifth year. But you also have a young core. What has impressed you in the way that this young core of folks have worked so hard and, has set you guys up now for the future in the next couple of years?
So we have a young group this year. We're going to have an even younger group next year.
Sure.
I know I've got probably close to 20 distance runner guys coming in next year.
Okay.
What I will say has impressed me most about this group right now is that I have the right people here. I know that we're bringing in a huge group. I mean, recruiting's been the name of the game right now. We talk a lot about what is to come in 3 to 4 years from now with that group. That's not going to mean anything 3 to 4 years down the road if we don't have the right people here right now returning to lead that group next year. So even if some of the people coming in might be a bit better than the group that's here right now, we know we have the right people to help show them the ropes of what Queens is about, what the expectation is, and how we get things done on a daily basis. So I'm really excited about the group that I have here now, knowing that they're going to be great leaders for our program in the future and really springboard us into what will be 25, 2026, 27 when we are really ready to put our name on Division I.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you carving out some time. I know you just said you came over from practice, but you guys are rocking and rolling. Best of luck this weekend. Travel safe. Of course, we'll keep on paying attention. We'll have you here back in a couple weeks to kind of summarize what you guys did up at UNC Charlotte. At least be able to get to stay in the city of Charlotte for that, so that's nice. But we'll have a conversation about that as well. But, Coach, really appreciate you joining us, and thanks for stopping by once again.
Great to be on here.
Absolutely. All right, we'll take another break. When we get back, we'll keep rocking and rolling here on the Queens Coaches Corner. Don't go anywhere. We're back from JJ's Redhots Rooftop right after this.
Every journey has a starting point. Each student has a moment when talent and passion meet opportunity. At the intersection of challenge and support, self-discovery fuels breakthroughs, and leaders emerge prepared for what's next. I grew up loving music. It possesses this very real, very unique power for connection and healing. and my journey as a music therapist took shape here.
I discovered the pool offered a more level playing field and the chance to push my limits. At Queens, there's so much opportunity, and our potential for greatness accelerates with every step of our collective journey.
I've always had a knack for chemistry, and that talent has magnified since I got here, rippling out in new directions. I'm not afraid to take risks. I believe challenges make us stronger, and innovation only comes when we're willing to lean into the unknown.
I'm still not sure what the future holds, but whatever it is, Queens has prepared me for it.
My professors push me in the classroom and believe in my abilities.
My coaches, professors, all of us, we're one team, one family.
Here, my voice is heard. I'm given the freedom to be myself and charter new opportunities for change.
Here, strength comes from within.
Practice makes perfect.
And curiosity knows no bounds.
I believe Queens graduates will create a better tomorrow. Where we go next? That's up to us.
Once royalty carves out its place in history, it becomes an empire. And an empire needs room to grow. People call us an empire. We simply call ourselves royals. Queens has been committed to excellence in everything we do. Now, we've leveled up. We're faster. We're stronger. We're better than ever. And now, we're ready for a new challenge. Our legacy has expanded. ASUN is now our domain, whether it's away or at home. On the diamond, even when no one is watching. Working, training, coaching. In the moments that define our empire, Royals are Division 1.
Welcome back into the Queen Coach's Corner. I'm Mike Glennon alongside you here as we talk a little volleyball now. The men's volleyball team season wrapping up this past weekend with an epic couple of matches in the IVA tournament, a tournament that we have hosted here in Charlotte the last couple of years. I'm joined now by Jeremy Price, our head men's volleyball coach. And I know we were just talking before we came on air here, but your voice is still recovering both from allergies, but also from a very intense weekend of volleyball too.
Yeah, especially that Friday night match. That was the probably the longest match I've been a part of, certainly in the rally scoring era, and about 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Man.
And just an epic five-setter, went 22-20 in the fifth set. And fortunately, we came up on top of that match, but we held off 6 match points. I think it was maybe a little unnecessarily exciting.
Okay.
We had our chances in the second set. We were up 18-12, lost 27-25. We're down 2-0, backs against the wall. Played great the third, fourth sets. And then we were up 7-2 in the fifth set, seemingly in good position, but you have to finish. Limestone, I give them a lot of credit, showed a lot of resilience, came back, got the advantage back at 14-13, and then had 6 straight match points.
Man.
We made the right plays at the right time, and then we're fortunate to come away with the victory.
Well, I was going to say, you guys are approaching like baseball game length territory in that one, that's for sure. And especially, let's start there. In a tournament setting like that, knowing very well that the winner of that match then has to turn around the following day and play for the championship. But, despite of all that, what's the excitement like for you as a coach? I'm sure it was riveting for sure. But at the same time, what's that excitement level like for you? And what did it do to you in terms of making you feel good to see how your guys turned out in that one?
I think one of the things, I think with our society in general, with where we are, with people and just working with people, you want to see resilience. I think that's something that you, especially as a coach in athletics, that athletics can reveal the resilience of the character of your team. And as a team, we had plenty of opportunities to pack it in and be disappointed. And we just found something a little bit deeper than what we may have known we had.
Sure.
And I really was pleased with how that match turned out. Again, not obviously because we won. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's athletics. It's a bottom line business. Course. You win, you lose. So the win is important. The win is great. But I think what we showed there is something that we may be able to draw on next year or even 2 years down the road, because we have a good core group coming back.
Yeah,
and a lot of those guys that are on the court in that environment, which was a tremendous environment. We had great fans. Obviously, Limestone's right down the road.
Sure. Yeah.
The other teams were waiting to come on. So all the teams in the tournament were there. It was loud. It was intense. It was a great atmosphere. And for us to be able to come out on top again is something I think we're going to be able to use, even buried somewhere deep psychologically.
Sure.
And we may not even know we're drawing upon it, but I think that match has value because of that.
Well, and you mentioned a very young core returning next year. You guys got a lot of talent coming back. And you just mentioned it. That can go a long way, whether it's conscious or subconscious. You can draw on that and really get it going. You know, let's talk about that atmosphere, not just with our fans. You mentioned it. Limestone always travels well, but any volleyball fan in the building that night just knew how special of a match that was and how much fun that was to watch. And I'm sure there was other coaches and stuff. They're sitting there going, man, I'm glad I don't have to coach through this. But that being said, you know, what was the atmosphere like this weekend, and what do you got to say in terms of the fans that came out, not just for Queens, but really just as volleyball fans in general?
Yeah, I thought it was a great event, and as you mentioned at the top of the segment, we've hosted this tournament the last couple years. The first one was in 2021. And we were coming out of COVID, and that was the first IVA tournament we hosted. Was the first time we'd actually had fans in the stands that year, and it's still very limited. We limited the amount of people that could enter the building. Last year was a great event, and this year I think has just built on those first two.
Sure.
And first I want to thank our administration here at Queens for allowing us to host and helping us put on a tremendous event.
Yeah.
And always doing a great job of, and your staff for, being able to televise it or webcast it and to have replay. And we've added a new layer every year.
Sure.
In terms of the quality of the tournament. And the volleyball has improved every year.
Yeah.
And while this is our last year as an independent within, NCAA Division I and II volleyball, I think we're leaving that group in really good hands at high level volleyball. And we're closing this particular chapter of our program, but we're excited to move on to the next one. But the atmosphere was great. The fans were great. And I think it was just a really exciting tournament. And I think even a volleyball fan that was not affiliated with any of the teams could watch the webcast or drop by and be like, wow, this is really good volleyball.
Yeah.
I'm really entertained. And it's a great way to spend the day.
Well, and we'll talk about the future here coming up in just a minute, but let's recap this season a little bit and just kind of I want to get your thoughts on this first initial Division I year. Of course, you guys played a lot of familiar opponents, but you also played a lot of brand new opponents and opponents that you will now see coming up into the future as well as you guys head on into the MIVA next season. 15 wins in your first actual true Division I season. What is it about this group that stood out to you? I know we talked about it earlier in the year, kind of what they've taken, the lessons they've learned from previous generations of volleyball players. But, now that you have seen this year come and go, what is it that stood out to you that's special about this group?
Well, I think, again, men's volleyball is very unique. So in one sense, we've always been Division I.
Yeah.
So this is our first year as part of a Division I institution. But as you said, our schedule was very similar. And in some ways, it'll be similar next year. You'll see some of the same teams on the schedule besides the addition of the MIVA teams.
Yeah.
But the thing that really sticks out about this team is we played a very challenging early part of our schedule.
Sure.
And
very challenging.
We had a good fall season, and you always hope that translates well. But I'll be very transparent here. We got off to a terrible start. I mean, we were 1-7, and frankly, we were not very good. We weren't as good as where we were in the fall. And as a coach, that's frustrating. It's concerning. And this group, the last 2.5 months of the season, last 10 weeks of the season, we started 1-7. We woke up on the first Saturday in February. We had lost the night before, and we were 1-7, and something clicked in that particular day, and we had a group of guys decide that we can, make some necessary changes, both technically as well as who they were in terms of their character and what kind of team they wanted to be. And from that point on, we went 14-6.
Wow.
And played really, really good volleyball through the stretch. And again, we did play a very difficult schedule. We played Hawaii right now, the number 2 team in the country.
Yeah.
Certainly one of the favorites. They're the 3-time defending national champs. So I think they're going to be a team to be reckoned with in the NCAA tournament in the upcoming weeks. We also played 4 opponents in our future conference.
Sure, yeah.
And we had to play Hawaii, Ball State, and Fort Wayne, and Purdue, Fort Wayne.
I remember
all in the
talking
same
about
week.
that gauntlet, that was for sure. But
not ideal scheduling, but that's what it was. And then over spring break, we went to Chicago and played Loyola and Lewis, and were challenged there. We came back home from spring break and played St. Francis of Pennsylvania and NJIT. NJIT was in the EIVA final last year. We swept NJIT, and I think that was a really big match for us that really jump-started us for that final stretch run.
Sure. And I'll be honest with you, like, since I got here in 2021, one thing I've always given credit to this team is, don't get me wrong, nothing against the volleyball fans in the stands. They're always loud, but the team, whether losing, winning, whatever it is always loud. And you could really sense, I think, over those last month or two of the season, at least from an outsider's perspective, could really sense how bought in they all became and saw, hey, if we go out there and execute the way we know we can come away with wins. Obviously, you won 14 of your last 20 games, and you end up rattling off that and making it all the way to the IVA championship. You fall to an unbelievably tough Lincoln Memorial team who is outstanding this year, just like they have been. But again, I have to imagine as a coach, you have that overwhelming sense of pride of what you were able to see these guys just really dig deep, do some soul searching, like you said, but they soul searched and they found what they needed to.
One of the unique things, so this is the 6th year of our program.
Yeah.
So we just finished our 6th season, and you could almost say 5.5 because the 2020 season was cut short, and we were starting to play well. But and we've had winning seasons the last 3 years, and so I think that was one of our goals, right? As we began the program, and we didn't want to take any shortcuts as we began the program, and we were committed to doing things the right way. And if things happened faster than we planned, so be it. But we weren't willing to sacrifice long-term for something short-term that may not last. And so I think as we enter the new chapter in the MIVA, these last 3 years of our program where we've been above 500, 3 straight winning seasons, I think is significant for still a pretty young program. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is every year we've been better in March and April than we've been in January and February. And as a coach, you do want to get better through the year.
Yeah.
And so I like that trend that we've had. I think we still need to figure out how to play a little bit better in January and February.
Sure.
But I really like that, how we finished.
And you guys have a unique season. Your season goes for a long time. Comparatively speaking to a lot of, winter, you guys go from winter into spring, whereas a lot of winter sports are winter and they end before the spring starts. You continue on well into the middle of April. And of course, once you get towards the NCAA Division I tournament, now you're talking about approaching May at that point. But, looking ahead of the future, before I let you go, would love to get your thoughts in terms of looking ahead of next year. We mentioned already a good core of these players coming back with all of this experience under the belt, both good and bad, and what they have seen at this level. They've seen a lot of teams they're going to see going to the MIVA. What excites you most about going into that first official year as a part of the MIVA conference?
Even though it's the first year that we're going to be a part of that program or part of that conference, it's exciting to be playing for an opportunity to get to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Even though the likelihood of us doing that is probably not very high. It adds another layer of excitement.
Sure.
And another very specific goal. And we operate in a very, your season, you get locked in, and it's like going into a submarine and you're just there and everything's kind of monofocused. But at the same time, as a head coach, I'm also need to be able to fly at 40,000 feet, look out and see where we're going long term in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And I think we have a real opportunity to be very competitive very quickly in the MIVA, but it's also something that we realize it's going to be a process.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're going to take good steps. We're not going to sacrifice anything, again, for short-term gain that could potentially sabotage our long-term success. But we have some, I think, very realistic goals, but we also want to aim really high.
Yeah.
And I like the core that we have coming back, and we were competitive in the matches we played against our future conference opponents this past year. And I think even just being able to see that level of play weekend and weekend out is going to help us in terms of being able to rise to that level of competition week after week after week. There's no off nights in the MIVA.
Well, what's that saying? You got to play the best to be the best, right?
Yes.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you joining us. I know you get a quote-unquote little bit of a breather as you guys head into your off-season, but I know at Division I athletics there never really is an off-season. Of course, recruiting coming up this summer, so on and so forth, but just want to say congratulations on a great season that you guys experienced this year. It was a lot of fun to watch, and of course, we're excited to see what you guys do in the future.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll take a break. We're back here with more Queens Coaches Corner right after this. As we keep moving right along here on this Tuesday night, a beautiful Tuesday night indeed, here at JJ's Redhots up on the rooftop. And I'm joined now by head coach Chris Panos of our men's lacrosse program. And first, Coach Panos, I'm a little bit upset, man, because that food that you got smells good. That's all I'm saying.
Well, JJ Redhots, great sponsor, and I couldn't go wrong here. So I'm looking forward to biting into this.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, before we do that, let's talk a little bit about what the way this team has played. And, you and I were just talking about it. I know you guys have dealt with a lot of adversity this year, a lot of injuries and stuff like that. I realize it's the way sports goes sometimes. Sometimes you have ups, sometimes you have downs. But, what about this team has really stood out to you in terms of the way they've dealt with all this?
Yeah, the resiliency piece really comes to mind. It's our compete level every day in practice, next man up mentality where, each guy's grinding, each guy's contributing, whether they get minutes or not. They're invaluable to the program as we transition upward.
And I know you guys are big on, and I see it all the time across social media, the practice player of the week. I know that's a big thing for you, especially for morale. And it seems to be a wide variety of guys that play every single day, guys that maybe get in a couple minutes a game, so on and so forth. Why is that so big to you and your coaching staff?
Well, the thing about it is we started the PPAL when I first got here, and it was one of those things where, again, to the notion of the teamwork mentality, not everybody's going to get on the field, but knowing that during the week that competitive spirit, the positive energy that those guys bring. And it's not only guys that get on the field or not, it's really voted on by their peers.
Sure.
So we it's like a pass it down kind of thing where the coaches really aren't involved in that at all. It's just at the end of the week, we give the chain and then they pass it down to the guy that they felt that week worked hard or did something extraordinary out of the ordinary of what we normally do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But anything to help the program.
Honestly, I like that piece to it, that it's not you guys that hand it out every week. It's the fact that players pass it down because they like the effort of what they see. And that's the other thing, you can have guys in your team that get in a couple of minutes their entire career, but they come out and they put in just as much time as the guys that play every single minute of their career as well. And, you guys have a very young core of players. I know you guys have some seniors that will graduate on and have played well this year, but you have overall a pretty young core of folks here that have ushered you now into this Division I era. What is it about the underclassmen on this team that's impressed you so much, knowing they didn't come in as Division I recruits, they came in as Division II recruits, but they've really gripped a hold of it and have led this team offensively, defensively, so on and so forth?
I would say the determination, just whether they're in the weight room competing for that, just obviously the up in competition, certainly. The ASUN's formidable top to bottom, which is exciting. But these guys, they do a lot of little things during the day for us, and I think for them it's just how they're able to navigate getting experience and kind of how do we get better this summer. I think the biggest thing for us now is getting the experience. Yes, I would say the physicality has been a big adjustment for these guys. Obviously, caliber of competition, but then again, when you look at, we've fared, especially the last two games. These young guys are getting minutes. They're hungry to compete and produce and, kind of prove the naysayers wrong about, what we can do here in a short time.
Sure. And shout out to you guys, even with the amount of injuries that you guys have had to deal with, all of which are starters. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I think you guys were without 8 starters or something like that. But that being said, the last 2 games at home have just been tremendously competitive. Win against Detroit Mercy, a couple of really good games, one against Cleveland State, one against Robert Morris. What is it about the guys that have that next man up mentality that have stepped up and really have shown out here over these last couple of weeks?
Yeah, and again, to the injury point of just that next man up, and I always tell the guys to prepare like a starter because your number could be called. Our personnel, we've moved some guys around, the versatility piece and athleticism, we've had to move some guys and juggle guys around on both sides of the ball. We've had some guys playing maybe unconventional positions of what they're accustomed to, but our depth was depleted, so we had to make some decisions, and the guys have really rallied around those roles. The clarity is good with those guys, and they really want to do whatever's best for the team. So I think that selfless charisma that the guys produce on a daily basis is something that I think is something that is part of our blueprint.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at the offensive side, of course, a guy like Jack Royer, he's been fantastic. One of the many Canadians on the team. I know Keelan Pilot is in my control room now, and great to have him as a graduate assistant. We always talk about that Canadian connection, if you will. But, looking at what he's done offensively, not just scoring the ball. I mean, of course, we've known the fact he's a lethal scorer, but this year he's also added a tremendous amount of passing. Not that he didn't have it before, but he's had to be that facilitator behind the cage this year. What is it that's different about his game?
Yeah, I think it's just the confidence, having a year under his belt. Obviously, with Keelan and Tyler down low, the two lefties with him last year, he was able to kind of make his mark as sort of a third threat, if you will, but certainly very lethal, as you said. I think just having that more of the voice of the offense and kind of a quarterback, if you will, of guys, the cerebral approach, the preparation, the schematics. So he's able to kind of translate that box background to the field game with his skills and his IQ, makes him a dual threat.
Yeah. And a shout out to a guy that between the pipes has been unreal the last couple of weeks. Kid's been possessed, and Wesley Wheat. He's been around for a couple of years. He's gotten some chances here and there, but really something has clicked in him in the last month or so of play. What's been different?
Well, he's had to rally around some things off the field, and he had a loss in the family. I know that hit home, and we had an emotional conversation, and it was like one of those things where I think he just wanted to kind of do it for his family. But he's got the talent. There's no doubt. His commitment, his compete level is top notch. And we've used all the goalies this year. We've been banged up. We've had a broken thumb, a broken collarbone, so we were down to 2 goalies at one point. So really, it was kind of it was like sinker or whatever it was going to be. We had what we had. So I think he's playing with a ton of confidence right now. I mean, he's in double-digit saves the last 3 or 4 games.
Yeah.
So, he's outstanding, and I think when you have a netminder with that capability, anything can happen.
Well, especially with the caliber of offenses he's had to face as a starting goalkeeper the last couple of weeks. I mean, you look at Jacksonville, you look at Robert Morris, Cleveland State, another one, Detroit Mercy, no slouch either. And then, of course, you guys have Utah coming up a week from Saturday. I know you guys are at Mercer coming up on Saturday. What should we look out for in that game?
Well, I think it's going to be a really good game for us. It's sort of the spoiler alert. We're kind of mathematically out of the equation as far as the ASUN, conference party, if you will. But nonetheless, we could play spoiler to Mercer because there's a few teams there kind of tinkering on this weekend's games are pretty important, as all of them really. But we could go to their house, and I think it's a good matchup for us. And obviously, they're well coached, talented. They've won some games, so I feel like it'll be a good opportunity for us to kind of measure ourselves. We've gotten a couple guys back, but we're excited to kind of go on the road and measure ourselves against another great program.
And then, of course, a week from Saturday, you guys host Utah here. But more importantly, for that Senior Day, Alumni Day, that's just a special day in general. What is it about that day that you guys as a team look forward to?
Well, you said it. I mean, seniors, obviously, it's their last hurrah with us and kind of what they've done, especially in the 4 years and being just part of really everything and COVID and just like there's so many variables to this class that are special and proud of these guys to make their mark. And then obviously the alumni, it's like looking at those relationships, and I've been cultivating that pretty good and just having those guys out and just building a tradition. And obviously, again, in the transition, just nothing but support from those guys. And I know they're gonna play a game in the morning. They'll have enough guys to play full field, so that'll be fun.
Yeah.
And, they'll give us an opportunity to kind of reconnect there and, again, cultivate those relationships, the new ones, if there are any, and, welcome all, families. And obviously we're excited to have that Utah program top 20 now. I mean, they're scoring a ton of goals. And again, it's a great measuring stick for us against, one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah, and I was talking to Keelan about the alumni game, and he said, "Yeah, man." He goes, "It gets intense." He goes, "Honestly, I think it's more intense than we were all here at one point." So, you got to love that. Still, all these guys, no matter what walks of life they've gone on to, still have that competitive spirit, and of course, more importantly, want to come back and support their alma mater. So, Coach, appreciate you joining us here tonight. Go enjoy your food. I don't want it to get cold, but at the same time, best of luck this week in Mercer, and of course, we'll have you on ESPN next week as you round things out against Utah. But it's been a lot of fun watching you guys this season, and very looking forward to what this future of this program has.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, man. No worries. All right. That'll do it for us here on this Tuesday night. We appreciate you joining us. A gorgeous Tuesday night. Indeed, make sure you come back at 2 weeks from today, as we will have you back up here on the rooftop of JJ's Redhots. Make sure you come out and join us, and like and subscribe across all of our social media platforms at Queens Athletics, at QU Sports Network. And of course, find us on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts to listen to this and all the episodes you may have missed. Go out and enjoy the rest of your night, folks. And as always, go Royals.